have a tiny comment for, I think it was the second caller where you were actually talking, like you often do, about people having, experiencing big consequences when they maybe realize they are atheists or they just want to leave their religion.
Mm-hmm.
I have, only for a few months or, something like that, in periods, call myself a Christian. I prayed. I thought I got my prayers answered. And then I have always had this strange, I'm nerdy when it comes to cults and sects. So I do a lot of research and I'm really interested in, cult gossip. And then I also started listening to you guys and some other shows. And then I realized, that's very refreshing. You need that when you listen to extreme preachers online, which I like, but you need a bit of contrast too. And then when I actually realized, that was so not reasonable to call myself a believer or to believe in a God. And then I can now feel a bit embarrassed just saying that to myself or to other people. And I mean, if I can feel a bit of embarrassment or shame or just have an emotional reaction at all for just calling myself non-denominational, whatever, Christian for a few months, then how strong wouldn't those feelings be for someone who has been a Christian for more or less their whole lives and maybe, living the Christian life, whatever that is, but, being really involved. So, I can really imagine it's very strange and hard since I can get an emotional response just for calling myself a Christian for a few months. That was only a comment for that call or you saying that.
Yeah. And you had something else you wanted to call in and talk about?
Yes. As you know, and as you have mentioned on the show, Denmark and the Scandinavian countries in general are quite secular. But now there is this new movement here in Denmark, which is, it's called the Lost Reformation, and they are all like...
the Lost Reformation?
The Lost Reformation, not the Lutheran Reformation. Now this is the Lost Reformation.
Okay.
And it's a Danish guy. And actually, do you know who David Lubega is? The Mambo Number 5 guy.
Sounds familiar,
the song Mambo Number 5.
Oh, yeah.
Sandra in the sun. It's just funny because it's my name in the song. Yeah.
You know, that song did not age well. In 2018, you listen to it and you're like, ooh, that's a little...
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is actually in that movement, featuring in their documentaries and whatever. And he's been to Denmark, being involved in their disciple school and whatever. And they are really into, street healing, not so much violent street preaching or anything. Thankfully, we do not see a lot of that here.
Are they advising people not to... You said street healing. Are people choosing to do that instead of go to the doctor?
No, they go out on the street and ask people if they have any pains. And they lay hands on people and they pray. And sometimes people experience healing and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Has anybody been able to grow back a limb, or is it just generic pain?
No, they just grow longer, of course.
That's the old...
Wait, you just grow longer?
Yeah, it's an old charlatan's trick.
Shit, I need to move to Denmark.
No, it's a charlatan's trick. You can't.
Oh.
I'm sure you can see
Okay, Sandra got it.
At least in Canada. Because they have these kind of big kickstart events all over the world, and they are actually they are doing stuff in America and in Canada and in a lot of other countries.
I believe it.
It wouldn't surprise me if you hear about them sometime soon. And I am thinking. I mean, I actually went to a meeting because I'm fascinated, but I didn't see any healing nor any demons being cast out, which was a little bit of, disappointing.
Well, yeah.
Yes. I mean, I wanted some more action.
Yeah,
you went to the meeting. You got to see the demon. Like, come on. What is this?
The shooting.
Can you walk on the ceiling or not?
Come on.
Pics or it didn't happen, Jesus. Come on.
There, not even speaking in tongues. I was a bit disappointed.
Oh,
shame.
Weak sauce. I was going to warn you that movements like this start small and then snowball into civilization destroying.
Yeah, come out here to the States. We can show you some real good wackos. I mean,
I was going to say, Sandra, is there any response to it? I mean, one of the things that happens in countries that are secular or not very zealous, because the status quo is unchallenged, is that the society as a whole becomes complacent and doesn't have the mechanisms to repel or debunk bullshit when it shows up on the door.
Yeah, I think I see that here too. There has been some comments about it. Some people writing some articles, debunking that movement, but they just don't put so much weight on it somehow, because they are quite extreme in some ways, with sexual issues and some other things. They are very extreme, so it's really hard for them to get Scandinavian people to join. So that's why they go out
and do healings.
Yeah.
Lay on hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Heal it for the Lord.
And they don't like alcohol. I mean, they don't drink alcohol in that movement.
Oh, well, then they're doomed in Europe.
Denmark.
But
yeah, well, at least in Scandinavia, yes. But the thing, more or less, to get to some kind of concrete question, of course, they would say this is
we buried the lead.
Proof and evidence for their God. Do you have any kind of, except for the general, how do you know this is true? How would you respond, or do you have any, how would you reason with someone who says healing and demons leaving people being evidence for God?
Sure.
So it depends on the,
Yeah, so there's a gentleman that I know who's a polytheist, who's right here in Austin, and he said that he can read tarot cards and tell your future. And I said, cool, let me get at least 25 people to come in, okay? Let them sit down in front of you. They say nothing. You read their tarot and walk out. Yeah. And let's agree on a reasonable number. If it's 50% correct, that's not good enough. If he can do 80 to 85%, I said, if you can get 85% of those future predictions true and they're specific, I'll buy you dinner. Yeah. I have not bought him dinner yet, and he has not come in yet. I'm calling you out, man.
Well, what I would say also, I don't know whether it's, I don't know, made its way to Europe yet, but the book, A Manual for Creating Atheists, actually, the first 3 chapters, even if you don't use the techniques, are fantastic educational material. Everyone should read this book. Okay. It should be everyone's first book that they read.
But
no one cares if Jane and Spot run. But I don't know if that book is read by any children outside the United States. But what I will say is it kind of depends on the format. So if you're talking to someone on the street in a crowd, it kind of becomes a different conversation than if you're speaking one-on-one with a person you know, or just one-on-one with a person you are sitting next to on the train or whatever. But there's a few approaches you can do. Like if you have an interest in the science, a lot of the phenomenon that people attribute to this, like it's the basis of skepticism is learning the science behind how humans deceive themselves. So doing that and being able to explain that to someone else is interesting.
Yeah, because that's something that is, just to be clear about that, even though Denmark and Sweden, where I know most, are quite secular, that does not mean that people are very skeptical necessarily. No. It's very important to make sure, because there are other things here, like tarot. One of my colleagues, she decided to go to a tarot, I think, or she was thinking about it. Then on the bus to work, I actually made a prediction about her meeting someone special this summer, and now she has actually got a boyfriend, so I might talk to her about that, actually.
Wait, you made that prediction, or the tarot card reader made that prediction?
No. I just took her hand. I did
start a cult.
Hand reading.
Start a cult. Write it down so you have 100% yes.
Of the ACA is in opposition to cults.
I don't know what she heard from the one reading her, whatever, but I have to talk to her about that, because I was actually correct, I would say. So maybe she should give the money to me instead. Yeah,
maybe meeting a person in the summer is not such a rare and unique thing.
Exactly. It's not. So, and I think since I could do that, maybe that gives her a bit of perspective on the issue. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I think the science part is good to look into. And with healing, I could say something like, well, if you can show me 8 out of 10 cases where actually a doctor or medicine professional confirms that there has been unexplained healing, then I might buy you dinner. So that's a good.
Yeah, well, I would say in a way, unexplained healing is almost a contradiction, because saying that it is a healing is the explanation. What I would say is, one, I really do heavily recommend that book for everyone, A Manual for Creating Atheists. But I think we're going to go ahead and move on to the next caller, Sandra.
Yes, sure do. Thank you so much. And
All right.
Bye.
Bye.